I didn't know it was still there. There were nights I drove for miles alone, with no place left that felt like home. Every road sign looked the same to me. Every dream was just a memory. I wore my silence like a heavy coat, carried words I never spoke, certain no one heard the sound of my heart breaking down. But somewhere beyond what I could see, a small mercy was waiting for me. The light stayed on when I was gone, through every midnight, every storm. Until I saw the light stayed on. There were calls I never answered back, voices reaching through the cracks. There were hands I didn't recognize, holding hope before my eyes. A door still open down the street, a friend who never gave up on me. Simple kindness I couldn't see then becomes a miracle looking back again. All the while I was running away, something beautiful chose to stay. The light stayed on when I was gone, through every midnight, every storm. When I lost faith in where I belong, the light stayed on. A quiet glow beyond the dark, holding space inside my heart. I didn't know how far love had gone until I saw the light stayed on. Maybe saving me wasn't a grand design. Maybe it was one small light at a time. A mother's prayer whispered in the dark, a friend still believing in my heart. Maybe grace doesn't arrive with a song. Maybe grace is knowing it waited all along. The light stayed on when I was gone, through every valley I walked alone. When I thought nobody carried on, the light stayed on. And now I see what carried me through wasn't straight. I somehow knew it was love that remained when hope was gone. And through it all, the light stayed on. that never closed. The light stayed on. The light stayed on. I never saw it until now. There was a winter in my soul so long, I forgot the sound of my favorite song. Days went by like silent trains, carrying nothing but old heartbreaks. I wore the night around my shoulders like a coat that kept getting colder. Certain no one knew my name, certain no one felt the same. But while I disappeared from view, love was quietly breaking through. Someone kept the window on through every season, every storm. While I was lost out in the cold, there was a hand I couldn't hold. Someone believed when I moved on. Someone cared when hope was gone. I thought the world had closed its door, but someone kept the window on. There was a message left unread. There were kind words I never let in. There was a porch across the street where a familiar smile would greet me. There was a mother saying prayers, speaking my name into the air, and friends who checked if I was alright, even when I stayed out of sight. All those moments seemed so small. Now I know they meant it all. Someone kept the window on through every season, every storm. While I was lost out in the cold, there was a hand I couldn't hold. Someone believed when I moved on. Someone cared when hope was gone. I thought the world had closed its door, but someone kept the window on. Maybe love isn't always loud. Maybe it doesn't draw a crowd. Maybe it waits beside a light through every lonely, restless night. Maybe grace is not a grand parade. Maybe it's simply knowing someone stayed. Someone kept the window warm ancient love that kept the window warm. Still glowing, still there, like a candle in the darkness. Still shining, still waiting for the day I'd finally see. Someone kept the window warm. Someone kept the window warm. Someone kept the window I never noticed until now. There was a winter I carried inside, 1,000 miles behind my eyes. I smiled enough to fool the crowd, but every night felt cold and loud. The world kept turning without a sound, while I was sinking underground, certain nobody knew the cost of all the pieces that I'd lost. I thought I vanished without a trace, but love was waiting in the same place. The coffee was still warm on the table, the door was still unlocked, the questions never stopped. How you doing? You been alright? Little words in the middle of the night, when I thought I'd gone too far to belong. The coffee was still warm. There was a friend who kept calling back, even when I never called them back. There was a mother leaving lights on late, just in case I changed my fate. There was a seat beside the window nobody else would take, like they were saving room for one more mistake. I couldn't see it through my pain, but kindness kept showing up again. The coffee was still warm on the table, the door was still unlocked, the questions never stopped. How you doing? You been alright? Little words in the middle of the night, when I thought I'd gone too far to belong. The coffee was still warm. Maybe hope don't come like thunder, maybe it whispers underneath. Maybe grace is somebody waiting long after you stop believing. Not trying to fix you, not trying to lead, just staying there until you're ready never saw it until I came home. There was a road I wandered down, so far I nearly lost myself. Every mile felt colder somehow. Every memory sat on a shelf. I stopped returning calls and letters, stopped believing things got better, certain I had slipped away from every heart that knew my name. And in the silence of those years, I learned to live beside my fears. But while I drifted through the dark, someone was protecting a spark. There was an empty chair by the window, waiting through the seasons alone, like somebody knew I'd find my way, even after being gone so long. When I thought I'd become a stranger, when I thought all bridges were gone, there was an empty chair by the window, and the light stayed on. There was a mother saying prayers to a room that wasn't filled. There was a friend who checked each year just to see how I was still. There was a place set at the table nobody else would ever take, as if love had quietly decided to leave room for my mistakes. The smallest kindness is survived long enough to keep hope alive. There was an empty chair by the window, waiting through the seasons alone, like somebody knew I'd find my way, even after being gone so long. When I thought I'd become a stranger, when I thought all bridges were gone, there was an empty chair by the window, and the light stayed on. Maybe love isn't measured by words, maybe it's measured by what remains. A place still open, a name still spoken, a heart that never changes. Maybe grace looks ordinary until the day you finally see somebody carried hope for you when you no longer believe. late at night, I can still see it. I spent years beneath a heavy sky, watching whole seasons pass me by. Every street looked cold and gray, like all the colors had washed away. I kept my troubles locked inside, too tired to run, too proud to cry. Certain nobody knew my name, certain nothing would stay the same. But while I drifted far from shore, something waited by the door. There was a porch light waiting, burning through the rain, through every mile of heartache, through every ounce of pain. I thought the world had left me, I thought all hope was gone. But somewhere in the darkness, that porch light stayed on. There was a voice upon my phone, still checking in when I'd gone cold. There was a chair nobody moved, saving space in a crowded room. A neighbor waving from the yard, a letter folded in a drawer. Tiny acts of human grace I was too lost to recognize. Now I see what I couldn't see then. Love was patient beyond my understanding. There was a porch light waiting, burning through the rain, through every mile of heartache, through every ounce of pain. I thought the world had left me, I thought all hope was gone. But somewhere in the darkness, that porch light stayed on. Maybe angels don't arrive with wings, maybe they look like ordinary things. A mother praying by her bedside lamp, a friend refusing to let go of your hand. Maybe redemption isn't loud at all, maybe it's knowing someone waits when you fall. There was a porch light waiting, long before I came around, standing through the silence, never making a sound. And now I know the reason my weary heart held on. It wasn't me who found the way, it was the light, the faithful light, the gentle light, that stayed on. Still glowing in the distance, still shining through the dawn. When I thought I was forgotten, the porch light stayed on. The porch light stayed on. Porchlight stayed on. remember now. I remember. There was a season I don't talk about, a road so long I nearly wore myself out. Every morning felt the same as night. No stars above, no reason why. I thought the world had turned away, like everybody else had gone their separate ways. I couldn't see beyond my pain, couldn't feel the sun behind the rain. But somewhere down a quiet street, a little kindness still believed in me. There was a house with a lamp in the window, shining through the dark when I couldn't find my own road. When my heart was tired and my spirit was worn, that little light kept burning on. I never knew how much it mattered until the lonely years were gone. There was a house with a lamp in the window, and the light stayed on. There was a voice that kept calling my name, even when I had nothing left to say. There was a chair saved at the table, like somebody knew I'd come back someday. A mother whispering prayers at night, a friend asking softly, "You alright?" Small things I hardly noticed then now feel bigger than they've ever been. Love was working where I couldn't see, holding a place for the broken parts of me. There was a house with a lamp in the window, shining through the dark when I couldn't find my own road. When my heart was tired and my spirit was worn, that little light kept burning on. I never knew how much it mattered until the lonely years were gone. There was a house with a lamp in the window, and the light stayed on. Maybe we're all somebody's reason to keep believing through a hard season. Maybe the strongest thing love can do is simply wait for someone to come through. Not with answers, not with demand, just an open door and understanding hands. There was a house with a lamp in the window, guiding me home when I felt invisible. Through every sorrow, every wrong turn, that faithful light continued to burn. And now I know I see it now. I see it now. There was a time I walked for miles with tired eyes and borrowed smiles. Every dream felt out of reach, like the tide pulling from the beach. I stopped answering the world outside, kept all my sorrow deep inside. Certain nobody noticed me, certain nobody would believe that I was barely holding on through another lonely dawn. But while I hid behind my pain, love kept calling out my name. The curtain never closed on me, even when I couldn't see. Someone kept a place in their heart for the pieces falling apart. When my faith was wearing thin and the cold was settling in, I thought my story had come undone, but the curtain never closed. There was a voice that checked each week, even when I was hard to reach. There was a porch across the block with a light burning around the clock, a mother folding her hands in prayer, speaking hope into the air. Friend who stayed though I disappeared, holding on through every year. The smallest acts I overlooked became the chapters that rewrote my book. The curtain never closed on me, even when I couldn't see. Someone kept a place in their heart for the pieces falling apart. When my faith was wearing thin and the cold was settling in, I thought my story had come undone, but the curtain never closed. Maybe miracles don't arrive in grand disguise. Maybe they live in ordinary lives. A door left open, a simple call, someone believing when you've lost it all. Maybe grace is patient enough to stay long after you've wandered away. The curtain never closed on me, not through doubt or misery, not through every wrong turn I made, or every shadow where I stayed. And now I know what brought me through wasn't something strong or new. It was love that refused to run, the kind that waits, the kind that stays, the kind that shines without applause. My heart survived because the curtain never closed. Still waiting, still glowing beyond the silence and the years. Still faithful, still open through the laughter and the tears. The curtain never closed. The curtain never closed. All those years, and it was still there. I spent a long time running fast, trying to outrun my past. Every town looked just the same, different faces, same old pain. I stopped believing I belonged anywhere for very long, like a photograph left in the rain, fading more with every day. And I was sure I'd disappear from every heart that held me dear. But love remembers what we forget, and some promises haven't left yet. There was a letter in the drawer, waiting where I left it years before. A few kind words, a simple line, saying you'll always have a place in mine. When every road felt cold and long, when I forgot where I belong, there was a letter in the drawer, and the light stayed on. There was a number I could still call, though I hadn't called at all. There was a porch I still could find at the corner of my mind. A mother praying in the dark, keeping faith alive like a spark. Friends who carried hope for me long before I could believe. The smallest things survived the years and quietly outlived all my fears. There was a letter in the drawer, waiting where I left it years before. A few kind words, a simple line, saying you'll always have a place in mine. When every road felt cold and long, when I forgot where I belong, there was a letter in the drawer, and the light stayed on. Maybe love isn't the grand goodbye of fireworks across the sky. Maybe love is what remains after loss and after pain. A note kept safe, a door left wide, a little hope that never died. There was a letter in the drawer, holding more than paper ever could before. It carried grace across the years, through all the distance and the tears. And now I know what brought me home wasn't strength I found alone. It was every heart that carried on, every soul that held me strong. There was a letter in the drawer, and the light stayed on, still waiting, still folded, like a promise time couldn't erase. Still shining, still speaking from a quiet, forgotten place. The letter in the drawer.